Higgins, the theme for this month was going to be anniversaries, 10th anniversaries to be specific, because you told me and the listeners, you can go back and check for yourself if you think I'm lying, that the book we're going to read and talk about this month had its 10th anniversary the month of September 2019.
I saw...
However, Higgins, you were telling some big lies.
Tall
tales.
I think I mentioned last time that I think I got it wrong after the fact.
Higgins, if it's not in the episode, and it probably isn't because I heard that and then cut it, it didn't happen. So before we start, I think you owe me and the listeners an apology.
All right. I'll get it there eventually. I feel a little on the spot. It wouldn't be sincere.
Could you just take one big leap to be that better person?
Yeah.
All right.
One giant leap.
Mm-hmm. Be the bigger person.
Yeah. I'll kill that later, though. This is pretty good, right?
I think it's like a sizable difference between the rest of our opening bits.
No, I was talking about my puns.
You want to start now?
Yeah, we can go.
All right. I bet your favorite movie is Big Fat Liar.
I like Liar Liar with Jim Carrey a little bit better.
Doesn't work for this joke.
All right.
All right. Higgins, welcome back to Comrades, Cocktails, and Comics, the show where we get together, we drink together, but most importantly, we read together. My name is Snoop Lynch. With me always is my lying co-host, Higgins Sturm.
Hey, that's me.
That's you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, but I hope you guys can trust that.
It's going to be a long time before we can move past this, Higgins.
I'm sure everybody's really broken up about it.
Yeah, but before they break out the tissues, why don't you tell them what we're doing here this month?
Oh, we're reading a book.
That's right. What are we reading?
We're reading this book called The Giant Killer. No,
No.
I'm just kidding. I Kill Giants. I did it backwards. I'm the bartender. What are you doing?
You're a real monster.
The book's called I Kill Giants, and it's by Joe Kelly and this guy named J.M. Ken Nimura.
Mm-hmm. Joe Kelly wrote it. Art was by J.M. Ken Nomura. Published by Image back in the day. Now, Higgins, do you want the actual dates of publication when this came out?
It's like 2008 of like September or something like that.
Wrong again.
Maybe October.
Quit while you're behind.
Or what's the month before September?
Higgins, this book originally ran from July 2008 to January 2009.
There's a September in there.
No, it's not.
Yeah, September's in there eventually, though.
I mean, it came out during September of 2008, assuming it did.
Yeah, like one each month, probably, right?
You're not going to backpedal from this.
There's...
You need to move on.
To be fair, I think it might have been like the part where it came out like as a total unit, because I read that on like Goodreads, and so I'm assuming it was like this volume came out with all of the pieces in it on September 2009, which could make sense because...
Are you saying they released it in trade on September?
Yeah, something like that.
That doesn't matter, Higgins. We're talking about individual pieces. Do you know how many pieces this had in total?
7.
7, that's right. And we're gonna go through all of them. Now, the theme, as I said earlier, was going to be anniversaries.
Yeah.
It doesn't really fit anymore, but luckily for you, this book's about killing giants. So it's now gone back around to be about big things.
Big things.
Mm-hmm. Big points we want to make talking about this book.
Lots of big ideas in this one.
That's right. Now, just a quick synopsis for this book for anyone who's just listening and maybe didn't read it for, whatever your reasons are, that's fine. Now, this synopsis comes from a quote Joe Kelly said in an interview. I'm just kind of like shortened it down, give it a little summary.
Paraphrasing it?
Yeah, I paraphrased. And my paraphrase is, it's a story about a girl who's a bit of an outsider. She's obsessed with D&D, doesn't have a lot of friends, and takes her fantasies a little bit too far. Barbara Thorson is convinced giants are real and giants are coming, and that it's her responsibility to stop them when they do. And just like the girl in this book killing giants, we're knocking back a few giants ourselves today, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I think they're knocking us back, technically.
Not yet.
Well, the idea is they're like the killers of the giants, and I guess you could call us giants because we're pretty big deals.
We're huge in the podcasting world, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen us on there. We have 2 reviews.
And almost 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Or we will when this is out. So this drink, as you said, is called the Giant Killer.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it, but it is the Giant Killer.
Can we just get along for once?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. What's it got in it?
You want me to say?
Well, I said what the title was since we're switching it up.
Damn, Higgins, you really threw me off my groove
No, I'm
because
just
I don't
kidding.
have the rest. Oh,
It's got bourbon in it. Four Roses bourbon, yellow label.
Mhm.
I don't know if we have yellow label.
No, we do.
Okay. Well, we have yellow label Four Roses. It's actually the cheapest of the Four Roses variety. I mean, that's not a big deal, but that's kind of our niche market. So it also has some limoncello. It told us to get this fancy Fabricia, but we decided to get the cheap kind.
We didn't want any part of that.
Also, we couldn't find the other one except online, and we were like, that's too much. But our bottle probably looks cooler. Mm-hmm. And then there's some lavender honey syrup that we added to it.
Add a little bit of sweetness.
I think it's lavender honey.
You're right.
Yeah, there we go. And then some lemon juice, and then these things called Bitterman's Boston Bittas.
That's right. You got to top it all off.
Bittas.
Because that giant has a bit of a bite to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This drink's trying to bite us, but you know what? I'm going to bite right back.
It's actually like delicious though. It's very refreshing on this end of summer month. That still feels like a middle of summer month.
It's great for a Labor Day weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, is that when we're doing this?
That's exactly when we're doing this. We're a little bit behind, so I apologize. Again, Higgins really threw everything off when he lied to me about when this book came out.
And when you moved to Chicago for a year.
Well, Higgins, as you know, last month we had a little vacation, so I needed to get a vacation from you.
I understand.
Yeah. But I'm back now, ready to do the show. We mentioned the drink. I'm going to link the recipe for this on the podcast description notes. They're right there. Take a look at them if you want. We'll wait.
Yeah, because I'm no scientist.
Higgins,
sorry, we're waiting.
All right.
Yeah, because I'm no scientist, and I don't feel like telling you guys the exact amounts you need to put in there.
No, we don't have time for that, Higgins.
I know.
We got to keep this crisp and to the point.
But I am a scientist.
Higgins, we don't care about your career.
Yeah, you're
unless
right.
it's related to podcasting.
All right.
And about this book. So we talked about who wrote the book. We talked about who drew it. First off, art's pretty great.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's black and white, but I didn't hate that this time.
Mm-hmm. There's actually there's a reason it's black and white. Mainly, it's just kind of it's a personal reason.
Is she colorblind?
I'm pretty sure these are both. Oh, you mean the character?
Yeah, she's not colorblind. Women can't be colorblind.
No, it's not possible. And thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah, J.M. Ken Nomura actually made this a black and white book because he had never done that before. He wanted to give himself a little bit of a challenge.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. It didn't go exactly the way he wanted it to. He said he was a little frustrated because basically he wanted to be like one of the greats, just black and white, nothing else. But to help him kind of with distinction between the lines, the shading, all that good stuff.
He threw in some grays.
He threw in a little bit of gray, which
honestly made it better.
I think so too. I think it adds a lot of depth to this is it's equal parts dialogue, equal parts action, and this art is really fluid, which I think works for a fantasy book like this one.
It keeps the important characters in like a distinct, this is them, but everything else in the background kind of seems like almost kind of wishy-washy, like you don't really have to pay attention to this.
It adds this like magical element to the world itself, even though the setting and the people are actually very grounded. And this story, without kind of going too much into it right now, reminds me a lot of things I've maybe read or seen before. The one that really came to mind is, you remember Bridge to Terabithia?
I've seen that movie.
Mm-hmm. It kind of had that same vibe to me.
So you're telling me it's super sad?
Oh, it's definitely sad. Will we read anything else?
No.
But yeah, I really liked it because it keeps you guessing a lot, this book, because the character of Barbara Thorson, our protagonist, she's convinced that her job is to hunt and kill giants, and everyone around her acts like she's insane. And it's one of those stories that you have a lot of fun going,
Is she?
Is she? Or is it actually happening?
Because there's some stuff happening that we can see.
Yeah, and they play a lot with that. Like, you'll see in the artwork, you'll see fairies, and she'll tell stories about giants, and it's so detailed.
And
but
like
then,
harbingers of doom and stuff like that.
Yeah, this entire world that apparently only she's seeing, and that makes you instantly go like, yeah, this is all in her head. She's a kid. And it's subtle stuff that kind of just adds to that thought of, yeah, she's definitely crazy, because the books she reads all the time are like giant manuals and stuff. So it's like
Dungeons & Dragons, player's guides and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, that came from that. So she is insane. But they really keep you going basically until the end. I thought it all flowed really well, and we don't talk a lot about this stuff until we get here because we don't want to ruin any good conversations. But I did text you after I read it and was just kind of like, this seemed a little dense at first. Like, it kind of took me a minute to kind of hop on board and really get into it. But once you get past, I'd say maybe the second chapter or three.
Second or two or three, it's kind of wordy up until then, but then boom, bang, pow, some action, and then it gets back into the heavy stuff again.
Oh yeah, you breeze past this after about chapter 3 or issue 3, and I finished it all, the rest of it in probably like one sitting, and then I went back and read it again in like an hour.
Yeah.
So really good stuff. The writing's really great too. Men don't always have the best voice for women.
Yeah.
Or kids, and so Joe Kelly is writing a small girl, and it all just
Yeah, sounds like it's coming from someone that's in that situation.
the character is 100% believable and really stands out. I mean, all the characters are great, but Barbara's she's our lens. She's who we spend the most time with, and I think the most interesting part about this book for me is she's not really likable.
She's kind of abrasive to like everybody, even to the people that she really likes. She can be like a real jerk too. She does catch herself on those people, and she's like, oh man, I was a super jerk to that person, but she doesn't do it till later.
Yeah, you can see her trying to open up to the new girl at school, Sophia. She wants to make a new friend, but there's too much there. There's too much baggage there and too much anger there to really let her do that. And
then some underlying issues.
Yeah, and it's interesting because she's really trying at points, but like you said, it's kind of like last second and too late, or what she's done before.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's big, and she doesn't make up for it, really. Like, the biggest thing between these two is she gets into a fight with a bully at school, and Sophia kind of tries to break it up, and then she hits her back by accident.
Yeah. Pops her in the eye.
Yeah, and she attempts to apologize for it, but it's kind of like, it's not a real apology.
Yeah, super half-assed. Like, well, you're kind of in the way. And then she like comes up to her later and tries to do it again, and she's like, man, someone must have gave you a real nice right hook or something like that. I don't remember the exact line, but
probably not the best thing to say.
Yeah.
And it's sad because this entire book has you guessing, like, what's Barbara's deal? What's going on with her? Is she just really a jerk and crazy, or is there something else going on? We find out that there is, but even when you find out the reason, she's not
super normal either way.
She's not super normal, and she's not super likable. Like, her personality is just, like you said, it's abrasive and kind of just, I don't know. I found the story relies, like that final like gut punch relies so much on feeling for the main character, and I thought it was pretty cool that Joe Kelly made that difficult for himself by writing a character who we don't really root for at all in the beginning, or even just during, when we start to see those cracks in her backstory kind of come to light and what's happening with her. There's something complex about it that I think makes the reveal work that much better. But like I said, it must have been really hard to get to that point with a character like that, and he definitely pulls it off.
And honestly, the whole way through, you're speaking of the reveal and the artwork that went with it. You see this whole time, she's afraid of her upstairs. She hangs out downstairs the entire time. And you see that with the artwork. Every time she like even looks at the stairs going up to like where supposedly her old room is, you see like, I don't know if you noticed it, but like in like shadows of like stairwells and stuff, you see like giant like beasts like on the underside of stairwells and like on the side of the walls. Mm-hmm. And then the large screams of like just her name.
And that's actually where we get to kind of see the other side of this character come out, is in those first few panels of that. Someone who acts so tough and thinks she has it all together and knows everything and supposedly kills giants, and what could scare her, whatever's up there definitely terrifies her.
Yeah, she's like deeply afraid.
Mm-hmm. And giants or no giants, something's up with this kid. And I guess we've been dancing around it long enough. We can probably already go ahead and talk about it. Like, the whole reason this story exists and the whole reason Barbara is the way she is and is obsessed with killing giants is because we find out her mother has cancer.
Which is her technical giant. Her fear of death, more than anything, is what the giant is.
It's a child's way of coping with a situation they're not really...
That's like way over their heads.
Yeah, they're not experienced enough to handle, or they've never seen before, and the person that is supposed to get them through that, their parent, is the one who's suffering from it. So
yeah, and the other parents nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm, yeah, okay. There's a lot of deadbeat dads in all these stories we read.
Yeah, I mean that's just the thing.
Yeah,
it could be a deadbeat mom, but
true. But Yeah, she's kind of left on her own because she does have a family that's still there. We see her sister really steps up and tries her best. She's always cooking. If she's not cooking, she's at work.
And she's cooking really shittily, apparently, but
Yeah, I mean,
I guess she's trying.
gotta start somewhere. And her brother is kind of that guy who keeps the peace as much as he can.
Well, for the longest time, I didn't even realize it was her brother.
Yeah, they do just kind of throw him in with a bunch of other kids, don't they?
Yeah, and he's a real douche at first, too.
I don't think he's a douche. I just think it's the same thing of it's his mom, too. So
Yeah, he's just coping with it a different way.
But you could tell later on when we find out about her mom and seeing kind of Miss Molly is the psychiatrist, I believe, who comes in and helps her out. Her mom and her were really close. Not to say that her mom wasn't close to the other two, but it seems like those two had a real special bond. And when she found out she's dying, she completely just shut herself in and came up with a way to fix everything.
Yeah, a way to kill her metaphorical giant.
Yeah, because you can't, like, she can't beat cancer. She can't just, hit it with a hammer and then everything will be okay. But what she does know is that you can kill giants. She's read it in all her stories. She's done all the research. She knows that these things exist. I'm doing the air quotes, Higgins, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Obviously, the listeners know.
Make a noise when you do that. Tinkle, tinkle, or something like that. Yeah, that'll work. That sounds better than tinkle, tinkle.
Okay. But she can kill the giant. So if that's what's hurting her mom, it's an easy fix. Or, it's fixable at least. And we don't know a lot about the town itself. Like, we don't really get a lot into the characters besides maybe the bully. And she's just one of those bullies that... She's like one of those 80s bullies in movies that is psychotic and wants to kill people, but the town's just okay with it. Because at one point she
so weird the way that the reasoning for her bullying. Sometimes, like at first it's just normal bullying. Hey, this is a weird kid. Let's mess with her. But then like at some point, like Barbara doesn't show up to school for like an amount of days, and she was just like, she thinks she can just not come to school. I'm gonna beat her up so hard. And I'm like, wow, she really cares about her education.
Well, she threatens to kill her a couple times.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, huh.
And Barbara threatens to kill her, to be fair, too, but...
Yeah, but
she probably could. She smacked down on that bully. And that bully was like 3 times her size.
Yeah, she was.
She was a giant herself. She was a meaty girl.
Higgins.
Well, she was a pretty meaty girl.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, in Higgins, I care. And as always, I actually went out and bought the book. I didn't read it on the interwebs like you.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a lot of back matter in the copy I bought, and there's actually original kind of sketches of what all the main characters look like, including the bully.
Yeah.
And Ken Moore did all the character designs, and so he eventually got to that point where kind of they all have exaggerated features. He's actually the one who came up with the idea for Barbara to wear
the animal ears,
the bunny ears, and then the different hats, because it was one of those things that Joe Kelly wanted to show that she is as weird as she is and an outsider without just kind of explicitly saying this girl's a freak. So he added in the bunny ears later on.
Well, she had like cat ears at some point too.
Yeah,
it wasn't strictly bunny.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like, she wears various weird hats and everything to kind of just show that she's quirky. And he did the same thing with just other characters, kind of their designs. He made Taylor's the bully, so she should be big and scary. And he definitely succeeded in doing that.
She was big and scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to see kind of Barbara doesn't want to let go of her mom because of how close they were. But I also thought what was interesting is that she avoids everything to do with her after that initial diagnosis. Like you said, she doesn't go upstairs anymore. Her room is up there, but instead she kind of moves down into the basement or cellar or whatever it is and just kind of sets up a fort. We know she loves baseball. That's what the hammer is named after, or the bag, or whatever it's called.
They never officially mention why she's obsessed with the baseball and stuff. When they're talking about it, it's in that time where all the things dealing with her mom are blacked out in the writing and stuff like that, and or either that or she cuts them off before she lets them get to that point.
That scene was really cool because it's just real dark and ominous, and it's kind of a tease because you feel like you're finally going to get some answers, but then, like you said, they kind of just black
Scribbled everything out. Yeah,
I thought it was really interesting and kind of just hooks you in even more because you have your hook in the beginning, like what's going on with this girl. a lot of weaker writers would just reveal it and then try to keep it going.
Yeah.
But he's able to keep the story interesting till the last second when we find out what happened.
I mean, up until like the very end, I couldn't even have told you that she had a mother that was around.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
I think the closest they ever come to kind of giving it away is
When she sees her mother at that one point.
no. Well, that's a pretty big one, but I think it's either right before or after that scene where Miss Molly, the psychiatrist, comes to talk to Karen about Barbara, and she's like, I think it's time we finally all had a talk, and she's like, okay, come up here. I'm about to give her meds. Like, that's the closest it ever gets to before you finally get that answer. But you're talking about the baseball and kind of you know where does that love come from? I think it comes from her mother, because the bit with the bag and the hammer, she names it
Kovaleski.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool because it was a baseball player who he was like a rookie or something, and he pitched against the Giants and won. So
three games in a row or something like that.
Yeah, and so that's that's the
he got
link.
the Giant Killer name.
Yep, that's cool. But I think that love of baseball comes from her mom. And so when she is diagnosed with that illness, she kind of drops it as much as she can, because they go to play baseball in gym, and the coach makes a remark about how kind of that's just obscure baseball knowledge, like,
how would you even know that?
Yeah, you've been holding out on me. And she's like, I'll just take the F. Don't make me play. And then she's like, no, it's fine. Well,
that was a pretty funny part, though. She calls her like, how do you know you're going to be a big...
Basically, how did you know you're going to be gay?
Yeah, be a lesbian.
Yeah, and
she calls her a derogatory term.
Yeah, we don't mention that here on this podcast, Higgins.
We never say dirty words on this podcast.
You've already broken enough hearts today. But
it makes sense, like, seeing the end of it, but the entire time me thinking about the baseball thing and her dad being a deadbeat, like, I thought that was the giant in the room, was the fact that her dad was never there and stuff like that, and it ended up being, like, way bigger.
That's actually really cool that the dad doesn't play any part of it, because the way he took the news is he just left. So yeah, mention him maybe one time just to show how bad the situation is overall, and then never bring him up again. Again, I'm just tired of deadbeat dads. Don't need him. Get him out of here. But like I said, I don't think Barbara's a likable character at all, really. You really do feel for her. And
you see her try a lot, especially once the climax happens. She becomes very likable towards the end of that.
Yeah, I think she still
still has hints of her old personality, but much less abrasive in general.
Well, I think she's always been that way, and that's why the news of her mom probably hit her as hard as it did, is because that may have been her only real friend, the one person who understands her, and that's why she was taking it so hard, and that's why she was so determined to help her mom by killing the giant. Air quotes again, Higgins. But at the end, her happy ending is she found other people who she can connect with, and that was the psychiatrist and her new friend Sophia.
And then also, we talked about like how there's these metaphorical giants, but she does by the end face this very, very realistic giant.
Oh, the Titan.
Yeah, because we find out it ends up being like a storm or something like that, to that effect. It could have been like a giant, and that was the way everyday people explained it. Because like you're seeing her like fight this thing with her hammer, and the other two girls that are there while this happens are like, oh shit, there's a giant here now. The lines are mixed, or at least blurred or something like that, on whether it's a real thing or whether they're just children placing a face on this horrific storm that came through.
Yeah, it's definitely like, it's that peak where like the fantasy and the real world really kind of get muddled together.
Yeah.
I'm taking one hand, and it's the fantasy hand, Higgins, and I'm taking the real world hand, and I'm pushing them together. These are all
crossing fingers.
Mm-hmm. It's too bad we don't actually like record any of this on camera, because these are all great illustrations.
We don't have.
It's not in the budget yet.
We don't have the budget for that.
But anyway, yeah, it's definitely, because I don't 100% know what to believe. And I guess that's kind of the point.
It's the point.
Is, like you said, it could be that's the only way that, that's the only way that real people can kind of handle it, is to make it into like a storm. Or Barbara's the only one with that magical eye, so they are seeing it as a storm, but it actually is a giant. Sophia does at one point mention like it is a giant, but
even the bully Taylor, who was also on the beach at the time, says, "Oh, Yeah, like
Yeah.
I see this thing.
But it's one of those things that also could just be chalked up to, well, they were kids and they were in the middle of like a weird hurricane and they freaked out and that's what they imagined.
They said something about the nor'easter winds and stuff like that, which are normally not crazy, but like ended up making like a freak tornado or something like that.
That's an actual weather term.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
It's like where the
I've heard of it.
Yeah, you know weather.
Yeah, I'm a scientist.
Yeah, tell me what it's like out there right now.
Yeah, there's some sun,
Whoa.
but maybe a breeze. But
Crazy things happening on Labor Day.
we've talked about like the giants being like the death cancer of her mother and stuff like that, but it also, that fight, she like talks to this titan and he's like, I haven't come for your mother, I've come for you. And I think more than anything, the giant in like her corner is not the fact like her mother's dying, it's the fact that it's letting her like life die with it. She's too afraid to live because she's so afraid of like death coming.
Oh.
And that's what's pushing her away from all the people that like she would hang out with and that sort of thing, her new friends and the psychologists and all that.
I'm pretty sure that was the wave that swept her into the ocean.
Yeah.
But you might be right, too.
No, well, it was a Titan.
Oh, okay.
His name was,
Mr. Titan.
yeah, he didn't get a name. I know the first giant was like or something like that.
Yeah,
When
that
she was
was
talking to Sophia.
I like that bit a lot, the whole like random backstory of giants and kind of where they came from.
Yeah, the swamp thing and stuff like that.
That's actually the only reason that part kind of came to be is Nomura, when he designed all the different giants and stuff she'd have to fight, eventually she just, like the only thing we ever really see her fight is the Titan, which is, you know, one of the baddest of the bads. But all those at one point were giant designs. So they just took those those scraps left over and then worked it into that bit. That's why you have like a frost giant, an earth giant, and a
Nice.
sky giant. I don't know. That's really cool. But yeah, the Titan itself is,
Super rad looking.
it's this weird, grotesque design that, like, you don't even see the actual like full body Titan because you just can. It's just that massive. Even looking at it, you can't really tell what's what a lot of times because of just it's covered in like, it looks like either fur or moss
It looks
or
like
something.
fur. It's
No.
got a bat.
It does have a big stick, yeah, but it's kind of hard to look at. It's probably just in her head, but man, what an imagination on a kid.
I know it tripped the shit out of me though when you finally see
The hammer.
the hammer looks like, because up until that point all you see is like a mini like small baseball bat keychain with a nail through it, and then you see this like giant ass hammer with
Yeah.
like a spear on the other end of it, and she looks like she can really smack a thing with it.
Doesn't she just? Yeah, it's kind of, that whole fight is, it's really just one big payoff for kind of waiting for a giant, because this whole time we are like, all we see is her hunting giants and talking about giants and saying, I'm going to kill this giant when it shows up. And it does not disappoint, fake or not, when it eventually comes and she fights it. It's just great stuff.
We're a
And
sucker for action.
I love it. I can't get enough of it. And it's a fight with a point.
Yeah, with a purpose.
Yeah, because it's about her kind of realizing, and it's heartbreaking. It's probably the saddest moment in the entire book. Like, not even her mom eventually dying. That's later on where it's almost a happy moment in a way. But that moment right there when she says, I can't beat it, I can't win, I can't save my mom, it's really heartbreaking. And regardless about how you feel about Barbara and her personality and everything, you just see this child in pain and then eventually swept up by the ocean. And for a second there, I thought she was dead. I'm not
Oh
gonna
yeah,
lie.
everybody did.
Yeah, and it's that ambiguity that really throws me off, because it's like, well, Titan or no Titan, she got swept up by a hurricane, so I'm not exactly sure how she lived, but I'm glad she did.
Yeah, and when she finally walks to the door and everybody's super happy, the imagery of that thing was pretty buck wild. Because I don't know if you noticed, like when she walks through the door, like she opens it and the giant Kovaleski hammer is like sitting behind her on the porch, and then 2 frames later or something like that, there's just that like baseball bat keychain with like a huge indentation in the porch, like where it was sitting,
Yeah, where it cracked it.
and you're like, was this giant hammer?
Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Well, just like the entrance itself is just like, it gives you this warm feeling, because like you see the sun like kind of coming off the back of her, and everyone just completely like loses it and huddles around her and hugs her and everything, and it shows Barbara that there's still something else to live for. There's still people that she can be with.
And she can finally come to terms with her mother dying and actually spend time with her before she actually goes.
Yeah, and that bit at the end where she decides to go see her finally and walk up the stairs. That's like, you could tell that's the hardest thing she's had to do, even though we just watched her take on a Titan and live. Like, it's still a lot for her, because she does ask, I think she asked Sophia to kind of go with her at one point.
Yeah, come with her, and she...
Which is a big step for that character, because at this point, she's never really asked for help. She refused, because I guess she didn't want to seem weak. And now she's kind of finally letting people in. And she has a really good moment with her mother, and she's going to die. But even when she does, like, Barbara gets that news, and you can tell how much she's changed already, because it's been like I think it's been like summer vacation when we cut to her again.
Yeah.
And she gets the call from Miss Molly that, it's almost time, her mom's about to pass. But she's not angry anymore.
Well, not just that. She's like a whole new character. Like, when you see her, she's still wearing like a hoodie and stuff like that, but no like animal ears. Like, her hair's just like in some ponytails.
Oh, she does have a brand new do.
She's wearing like a girls rule, boys drool sweatshirt. She's like hanging out with Sophia, and like, I don't know if you noticed, but like the book she was reading wasn't like a Dungeons and Dragons handbook. It was something like, I have it right here, Queen Bees and Wannabes. So like a kind of a girly book, which is like super untypical of her.
No, she's embracing that sensitive side.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. I didn't notice that. Good eye, Higgins.
Yeah, man, I pay attention to pictures.
Yeah, I bet you see everything high up on that cliff.
With these glasses on, I can't miss a thing.
The funeral is really good at the end. It's especially telling of Barbara how she's learned to accept what's happened, because everyone's obviously really sad. They're crying, and she's sad too. She's just as sad as anybody else, but there is kind of a smile on her face because
she's come to terms with it, and she got to spend that last little bit of time with her mom before she actually passed, because she was able to break through that moment.
Yeah, and that's been Miss Molly's kind of whole goal with getting through to her, is teaching her that losing someone while bad isn't all you should think about. You should think about the time you have with them and getting the most out of it. And it's evident Miss Molly got that lesson across when Barbara and her have a bit of a chat after the funeral, and she kind of just repeats back to her what Miss Molly told her. I am sad, but I enjoyed the time we had, which is important. She's like, yeah. And the biggest moment, probably besides going to see her mom, is the end where
she sees the Titan going off into the distance.
Well, she goes back into her room, which I imagine that up until this point, she hasn't really slept, but she just, falls asleep and then kind of mutters the message of the book, which is, we're stronger than we think we are.
We're going to be all right. We're stronger than we think.
So, yeah.
With some fairies flying around.
Yeah. Just a magical ending for a magical story.
So we kind of wrapped it up pretty good, I think. But I do want to talk about one more thing. I know you have this in your book, and I also had it where I read it, like the little mini comics in between where Joe Kelly's talking to Ken Nimura.
There you go.
Yeah, he's talking to Ken Nimura.
Oh, you mean the little
like the little really funny looking like comics of them two talking to each other about the artwork and stuff like that, where he's talking about like character design, like all the fairies are naked, and it's very obvious that they're naked the entire time throughout the book. But yeah, I mean, it's a goofy design, but I did like the little comics at the end, because Joe Kelly's like, oh man, what's this guy got? He's so bad. And then he's like looking at his drawings, and he's like, oh, it's so bad, I'm going to kill this guy. And then he's like, oh, I can't do that. And he's like, good job. And the other guy's like, I'm good at drawing.
They had a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a good team, and you could tell, because I have that in mind. It's kind of all at the end, but right before that, they have a few little interviews with both of them, and they only kind of just... They talk about how they came up with designs, the story, the layouts, and everything, but it's mostly just them kind of praising the other person, and I think they're a great team. I don't really know what else they've done outside of this, but you could tell that over the course of this, they became good friends, and this story is actually Joe Kelly's original idea. He came up with it right around the time his dad was diagnosed with diabetes and having a lot of health issues.
Yeah.
And his dad passed away, if I remember right before the last issue came out, or right around the time the last issue came out. That's what kind of gave him the inspiration of this story about losing a loved one and kind of how to deal with it. And I think he really appreciates how much Nomura came in and only made that story better. And because it's clearly something's near and dear to his heart, and I think Nomura, it became the same thing for him. And I mean, this book is pretty much universally loved by anyone who reads it.
I was talking to friends here and there that have actually like read it already, and they were like, that is a spectacular book.
Yeah, and it's one of the, comics are hard for a lot of people to get into, but I think this is one of those that you can just hand to someone and it's just they read, and if they do actually open it up and give it a shot, they'll finish it to the end. And
well, that's the thing, like we do a lot of short comics, and I think that makes it easier for like stuff we introduce sometimes. You can just hand it to somebody that doesn't know anything about a superhero or something like that, and they can pick it up and finish the 7 issues and then be done with this world and then have like a concrete ending without having to know one thing or the other before they start it.
It's the hardest hurdle to get over, but with a book like this, it's one and done, and I think it's a story that anybody can relate to, because this isn't anything I've gone through. I'm nothing like Barbara, but I feel for her and I want her to get better. And yeah, I think if you haven't read this, again, why are you listening to this? It's fine. I appreciate it, but you're definitely doing yourself a disservice if you haven't read this book.
Yeah, check this thing out. So we obviously like this. Do you want to give it a rating, or is that just like kind of passe at this point?
So for this book right here, I'm going to give it 1 home run out of the park with
a grand slam, you say?
Don't interrupt my rating. You're too much right now. But yeah, I'm going to give it 1 grand slam with the biggest Kovaleski hammer I can find.
That's good.
I can't think of anything better.
I'm going to give it some giant titans, like 5 of them maybe.
5 whole titans?
5 whole titans out of 5, and then 1 small fairy penis.
On each of the titans?
Well, no, on just like covering in between them.
Oh.
There's an invisible fairy there, but the only thing you can see is like his small fairy penis flying in the air.
Yeah, because it glows.
Yeah, it's just like 2 little...
He's holding up his hands.
2 little lines. Like they look like J's, 2 J's, but like in a mirror. And then a U in the middle of it is like not exactly a penis, but it looks like one. If you like have an imagination.
I don't know anything about that, but I know that you just painted the most vivid picture of a fairy penis that I've ever heard. So thank you.
Well, they'll know what it looks like if they read it.
But yeah, we did it. We read a book.
Yeah, we drank a drink at
we drank this
12 o'clock in the afternoon on a day.
Higgins,
that's during the week.
Higgins, calm down, all right? It's Labor Day. I'm going to need you to get off my back. You've done your rating. I've done mine. We talked about this drink and any problems we may or may not have. Let's tell people other things. Oh, I've got one thing to mention actually real quick.
So do you want to do like some really disgusting thing, or is that just for our picture?
Higgins, tease now, deliver later.
All right.
Okay. But no, what I do want to mention is last month we mentioned that we started an email.
Did we get an email?
We got an email from someone I know. My boss, Brian Harris.
Oh, okay.
So I want to give him shouts out because his email, I've got it right here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. And last week, you mentioned something about swizzle sticks, and I said I had no idea what that was, and if I should be a little worried. And you said, don't worry about it. Well, I'm here to tell you that Brian emailed us and said, I'm worried.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was actually
No.
Keep the mystery alive?
Yeah, we'll keep the mystery alive.
All right.
Point is, you should worry about it, and we should thank Brian for sending us that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
I'm pretty excited that someone actually sent something to that.
We also got someone's paper about something.
We got a paper?
Yeah.
Someone sent us something?
Yeah, hold on. But it has nothing to do with us. It was like this weird 3-paragraph paper about how millennials need to take over the state of society.
So it has everything to do with us. We're one of those things.
I don't know. We're not millennials.
Yeah, we are.
Are we?
We're on the tail end.
Well, I don't want to be. Anyway, thanks to that person too, I guess.
We're actually closer to being Gen Zers than we are even millennials, so I know.
I can't even count to Z. But yeah, let's clean up shop.
Clean up shop?
Yeah.
All right. I have a Twitter. You have a Twitter.
What are they?
Mine's Mike Higgins 93. I'm getting so good at that. That was me putting some like fists in the air.
Yeah.
You're at Snoop_Lynch at the Twitter.
I am.
What are we at Instagram?
I'm also Snoop_Lynch on the Instagram. Send me a picture or let me sing you a picture. Either way.
Or slide into my DMs. I'll see all those slides.
You can't do that with me. I keep my DMs pretty close to the chest, but
I'm so public, you can see anything.
and they can see you specifically at JStern93.
Yeah.
There it is. So yeah, contact us that way. Like I said, we have an email, yourcomrades@gmail.com. Send us a letter. Tell us if you like this book. Why wouldn't you? It's great. Tell us any other books you've read, any books we should read. We'll take recommendations. We're hoping to have another guest next month. Not confirmed, so I won't say who it is, but hopefully he'll be there. But what we are going to do, all three of us, or at least two of us, is we're going to pick a different spooky story.
You know what's spooky about this besides the fact that they're spooky?
That we're recording on Halloween?
That there's no pictures.
Shuddered. Which means I have a month to learn how to read a book without pictures.
No, there's a lot of comics out there, but we're going to run out eventually.
Because there's a whole audience out there we haven't even capitalized on.
I know, specifically people that like short horror fiction.
Yeah, people who only read books with words and nothing else. Why would they do it? I don't know, but I want to get to know them.
Yeah.
So we're going to pick a different story, like you said, be a little mini book report for each of us, and then go over that.
Do we want to give up our choices for the coming up week, or do we want to keep it a mystery?
I think we'll just keep this one a mystery for
All right.
now. Again, it's Halloween. It's spooky.
Short horror fiction.
You don't know what's... You don't know...
Ghosts.
Novels.
Candy corn. I don't like candy corn, so that's pretty scary.
That is scary. I'm just going to have a bowl right in front of you the entire episode.
I'm just going to be shivering the whole time.
But yeah, join us for that if you want next month. It's going to be fun, I think. If not, it'll definitely be scary. And until then, as I always say, cheers, guys. And Higgins always says...
No, I know. We really killed that giant.
That one wasn't that bad.
Yeah, thanks, man.
No problem. Thank you.